Hogs got it's all about I'm not allowed to say the TP word. That's on our verboten list. We've started a tax anytime anybody says the TP words. So you've got a whole verboten list. You know where we're going with it. How many times a show do you think you say the TP words now?
We, a couple of years ago, I wouldn't say held a contest, but we just said, what's a different way we can use this? So we call it the He Gone Gateway.
I like that one. We won't use it because that's yours.
No, you can. I don't get paid every time, so you can have it. You can use
it. Speaking of the warp zone, Phil and I were talking earlier. I absolutely love what Oregon did getting that kid from Oklahoma. How do you see that fitting there?
Well, Dylan Gabriel is a very accomplished lefty passing quarterback. He's a Hawaii kid and started down there at UCF with Josh Heupel, and then eventually transferred to Oklahoma, put up a bunch of yards there. And he's going to fit nicely. Now, they very well may get Dante Moore, former five-star Detroit, who actually committed to them a little over a year ago on signing day, but didn't sign and ended up signing with UCLA. They may get him, too. Their quarterback room is going to be interesting.
What do you think Vandegrift will have success at Kentucky? Leaves Georgia after backing up. I saw Kentucky just got a running back in from Ohio State, a guy who was pretty productive. Yep. They do. Stoops does pretty well in the portal. In the oh gosh, that's $13 now. in the He Gone zone.
Yeah, it's Kentucky's doing well. They need to replenish some shortcomings. They have good young receivers. And I think he's also an athletic quarterback. He's going to be a little bit different. He's going to be able to run around some for them, too. More dual threat than they're used to. And they brought in a lot of good players, and they're getting a decent number of them. And I tell you who's just on the verge of just killing the portal, the He Gone Gateway, is Baby Kiff, Lane Kiffin. This Juice Wells, who they brought in, is a dynamic playmaker when he's healthy. He hasn't committed yet, but they're probably getting him. And then Walter Nolan, who's the top-rated player, period, is visiting coming up, and he's from the North Mississippi, Memphis area, which you guys know is nothing to Ole Miss. They're going to be a player there.
And Chris Paul's an all-SEC linebacker. I know he didn't get all SEC honors this year or whatever, but that kid is talented.
Right.
Bill, aside from being a program that's on the up and up, well, I shouldn't say on the up and up, I should just say that's playing well in Ole Miss. That one feels like a program that their success in the He Gone zone has a lot to do with NIL, and it feels outsized compared to the athletics department. What do you know about what Ole Miss does with NIL? Because it feels like it's a big deal there.
They're not a recruiting ranking school, meaning you're not going to get real sexy recruiting rankings. Historically, that's not good. They get players, but I'm just talking about that real attractive ranking. And without this, they would probably be a 75 type program and maybe even zip under that occasionally. But Lane Kiffin is a dynamic recruiter, and he has encouraged them, and basically, I would say behind the scenes, threatened would not be the right term, but said, this is what it's going to cost for me and the program. And they're getting him the money. That they are getting him the money to get out there and fight the bigger boys. And heck, he's making $9+ million a year and has got a pretty big war chest to play around with.
Bill, what's your take on Taylon Green, the kid from Boise State? What do you know about him?
You know, guys, I have not watched him much. I was thinking about this the other day when I was reading about it. I don't know much about his game. I need to brush up there, but I have not watched him enough to give you guys a good objective.
I was thinking, that kid at North Carolina State, Armstrong, the way he's been described to me, it kind of makes me think of somebody like that, but I'm with you. I haven't really seen him play.
The word that I hear, and I watch a little bit of it, the word I think is raw, but also incredibly talented.
Maybe like that kid at the quarterback at Auburn, Thorne. He's a tall, raw kid. Kind of got a little talent.
But also the sort of quarterback that you're like, all right, Bobby Patrino, go ahead and mold away, right?
Well, yeah, Bob Patrino is a brilliant quarterback guy, and I like that. Whoever he gets his hands on, I like. I think it'll work out.
Yeah, that's about track record is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Who else is now? I knew you were going to bring up, and I love how you call him Baby Kiff, but there's a thing about Lane Kiffin that's different from any of the other coaches that are successful in the he gone zone or in any other way. It's his activity on Twitter and X or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? He basically live tweeted his recruitment of Chris Paul without ever saying, I'm going after this player. You know exactly what he's doing. And he's it's not that he's rubbing it in people's faces, but just the fact that he's letting everybody know he's at the Fayetteville airport. He's at the Pine Bluff airport. He's here. He's there. You know who he's going after. Like that's part of this. It's the brashness. I know the Ole Miss fans love it. Everybody else is like, God almighty, I hate this.
Yeah, I think you're right. You know what he is? Now, they're not the same personality, but back when Steve Spurrier was really cooking at Florida, and he would, to the media, audio bites, video bites, he would take shit, Tennessee, Florida State, Georgia. If Spurrier had social media and would use it, Spurrier would never use social media. But if he could, that's exactly what Lane Kiffin is right now.
I love it. I love it. There's I believe that. I see the similarities there. Yeah, both were quarterbacks.
Yes. And Spurrier was not a go-getter recruiter. He was just in a spot that was phenomenal, and they could literally just take the boat, row it out, and the fish would jump in. He wasn't chasing people down like Lane Kiffin. But in the trolling department, they're very similar.
Hey, speaking of Florida, I know that that there's going to be an exodus from a program if they don't have a great season, and Napier's remaking the coaching staff. But losing ATN, the running back, and he played well against Arkansas. He's a really productive running back. That one feels like that could hurt them quite a bit.
Couple that with Georgia's probably the recipient of him.
No way.
Yeah. So that's not getting cut. That's getting your wrist slashed, and then the next thing to do is go to your jugular. It's rough. And I was talking about it earlier. I don't know if I put it out there on y'all's show, but Billy Napier, guys, has about a 20% chance at best of making it past 24.
It's giving second-year Brian Harsin vibes here in December, isn't it?
It's so stacked against him. It's not even funny.
Bill, right now, and my mind might change by the time the game gets here, but right now I have Alabama beating Michigan and I have Washington beating Texas. Who do you have winning those two games? Who do you have playing for the national championship?
Stylistically, they're obviously different games. I've got Alabama winning. It's going to be a 24-21 type game. It's not going to be real pointsy. Washington, Texas should be a shootout. That one gets on into the 30s, high 30s perhaps. I've got Texas winning that game because I think let me back up. They are better than Washington on defense. I think their defense will be more successful, even giving up 30-something, than Washington's will.
How do you view the bowl season? Not the playoff games, the bowl season. I've always thought, especially since the opt-outs, really only since the opt-outs became a thing, because they used to be the way you cap your season. Now, I don't view it as a continuation of the season that just finished. I don't view it as a start on next year. I view the bowl games as some sort of weird standalone thing upon itself that doesn't cap a season off and doesn't really tell you where you're going in the future either.
Bowl games are exhibition matchups where nothing is riding on it other than maybe a particular team maybe having pride and really wanting to play well. It does not predict the future if you look horrible or if you win handily. I've watched too many of these games. It does not connect up the next season. It is not a conduit to the next season. You can't tell your team in March, wow, that bowl game, we're rocking in September. Totally irrelevant. Total reset. The one thing that I can kind of grab onto with random bowl games with opt-outs is if I know the personnel, and on a lot of these teams I do, I love seeing the young guys who didn't get to play and to see what maybe they can provide someday in the future. I do look at that kind of stuff. Not that I take the bowl game and say that means 2 years from now what he's going to be, but I do want to see what they can flash. And that's about the only connection I have with a bowl game. Or if on Friday Brad Bowers is with me and we bet a game, then I'll watch that one probably.
Bill, who do you see Jaden Daniels being at the next level? Is he kind of like a RG3? Is he a Lamar Jackson, Johnny Manziel? Like, do you think his game translates to the NFL level?
Yeah, he's going to be better than Johnny, and I love Johnny, but Johnny wasn't mature enough to continue forward. Boy, he's not as athletic as Lamar Jackson. He's a better passer than Lamar Jackson, naturally. RG3, I think, is a reasonable expectation, and he needs to stay healthier than RG3 did, but I think that's a reasonable comparison there. I love his game. Like I told you guys, if I still voted, I would have voted for him.